Reggie slaps a sold sticker on the wooden sign. This is the peak of the mountain, the standard American dream. Reggie steps back. He feels a swell of pride. He has arrived. But zoom in. Look closer at your face. That isn't just pride. There is a bead of sweat on your temple. Your pupils are dilated. Your heart rate is hovering at 95 beats per minute. Why? Because to get this moment, you just signed a document 3 inches thick. You just promised a bank 40% of your labor for the next 30 years. In that moment, the house transforms. The front door isn't an entrance, it's a mouth. The roof isn't shelter, it's a crushing weight sitting directly on your cervical spine. You think you bought an asset, you think you secured your future, but if we look at the invisible math, you haven't bought an asset at all. You have signed a contract to be poor. We are told from birth, rent is dead money. Paying a landlord is throwing cash into a furnace. Paying a mortgage is a savings account you sleep in. This script is repeated at dinner tables across the West. But that script is mathematically obsolete. You are about to find out that the safe path is actually a leveraged liability. Your house is a hungry animal. It eats cash. It eats freedom. And worst of all, it eats the one thing you need to get rich: mobility. Today, we are performing a full-scale forensic audit on the American homeowner. No feelings, just ledgers. By the end of this audit, you will understand why the smartest financial move in 2026 might be to own nothing and control everything. Before we dismantle the dream, we have to understand the source code. You cannot blame your parents for pushing this advice. They aren't lying. They're just using a map for a territory that no longer exists. Let's travel back to 1970. Meet 1970s Reggie. He works at a factory. No degree required, just a strong back and a firm handshake. Let's look at his ledger. 1970s Reggie makes $9,000 a year. He wants to buy a house. That house costs $25,000. The price-to-income ratio is 2.5. The house costs 2.5 years of his labor. He walks into a bank and signs. Here is why the boomers were right about their timeline. Throughout the 70s and 80s, we saw high inflation. Prices of bread, gas, and labor skyrocketed. Reggie's wages went up to match it. By 1980, he wasn't making $9,000, he was making $18,000. But his mortgage payment? That stayed exactly the same. Inflation eroded the debt. Every year, the mortgage payment became a smaller percentage of Reggie's paycheck. It effectively disappeared. Simultaneously, the home's value went up. It was a forced savings account that paid out double, a financial cheat code, an inflation hedge. Fast forward to today. Meet you. You work in a cubicle or freelance in the gig economy. You make $60,000 a year. You want the same modest 3-bedroom starter home 1970s Reggie bought. That house is no longer $25,000. It is $450,000. Run the ratio. That is 7.5 times your annual salary. Reggie paid 2.5x. You pay 7.5x. The ladder hasn't been pulled up. It's been set on fire. The economic physics have inverted. You aren't buying a cheap asset inflation will eat away. You are buying a speculative asset at the absolute top of the market. And you are fighting the interest. In 1970, 10% on $25,000 was manageable. Today, 7% on $450,000 is crushing. The advice, buy a house ASAP, is a fossil. It comes from an era where housing was a utility, not a speculative investment vehicle for private equity. When your parents say rent is throwing money away, they're remembering 1970. They are not looking at your spreadsheet in 2026. The asset didn't get better, the money got broken. But you are stubborn. You say, okay, it's expensive, but at least I'm paying myself. When I rent, the money is gone. When I pay a mortgage, I build equity. This is the equity myth. We need to put on our visors and look at unrecoverable costs. In accounting, an unrecoverable cost is money that leaves your bank account and never comes back. It builds no wealth. When you rent, the unrecoverable cost is the rent check. When you own, the unrecoverable costs are hidden.
They are silent killers. Exhibit A, the amortization trap. You take out a $400,000 mortgage at 7%. Your monthly payment is roughly $2,660. You think you're putting $2,600 into your piggy bank. Look at the amortization schedule for month 1. Of that $2,660, the bank takes $2,330 for interest. Only $330 goes towards the principal. You paid $2,600, you kept $300.
You are not paying yourself. You are renting money. The bank is your landlord, and the rent on money is high. For the first 10 years, you were mostly just setting cash on fire to service the debt. Exhibit B, the phantom costs. You look at the Zillow estimate. Estimated payment, $2,600. You think that is your housing cost. You are a fool. You forgot the silent partners. First, the government. Property taxes. You never truly own land. You rent it from the state. In many areas, this is 1.5% to 2% of the home's value annually. On a $450,000 house, that is roughly $600 a month. Gone. Forever. Second, entropy. Houses are biodegradable. Roofs leak, boilers explode, termites eat. The standard rule, 1% of the home's value per year in maintenance. That is another $375 a month. If you fix it yourself, you pay with time. Your labor has value. If you ignore that cost, your audit is fraudulent. Exhibit C, the exit tax, the one nobody talks about. When you sell a stock, the fee is zero. When you sell a house, you pay the gatekeepers. Agent fees, closing costs, transfer taxes, usually 6 to 8% of the sales price. On a $450,000 home, that is nearly $30,000 gone in a single afternoon. That $30,000 destroys the first 3 years of equity you thought you built. If you sell within 5 years, you lose money. The scoreboard. Let's look at the monthly burn rate. Scenario 1, renting. You rent a nice apartment. Total unrecoverable cost, $2,000. Scenario 2, owning. Mortgage interest, $2,330. Property tax, $600. Maintenance, $375. Insurance, $100. Total unrecoverable cost, $3,405. Do not look away. Owning is costing you $1,400 more in burned money every month than renting. You aren't saving, you are bleeding. You are paying a premium for the illusion of ownership. That is $16,800 a year of post-tax income set on fire to avoid being called a renter. We haven't even touched the biggest cost, the wealth killer, opportunity cost. To buy this house, you scrape together a $100,000 down payment. That money is now locked in the drywall. It is dead equity. Split the screen. Homeowner you has a house. Renter you took that $100,000 and put it into the S&P 500. Historically, the stock market returns 8 to 10% per year. Real estate over the last century barely outpaces inflation, about 1% real growth after maintenance and taxes. Run the clock forward 30 years. Homeowner you paid off house, maybe worth $1 million due to inflation. You are house rich, cash poor. To eat, you must sell. Renter you, your $100,000 compounded at 8%. It is now worth over $1 million. But wait, renter you was also saving that extra $1,400 a month in burned money we calculated earlier. If you invested that difference every month, renter you is sitting on a portfolio of $3 million to $4 million. The safety of the house cost you $2 million. That is the price of the American dream. Then there's the liquidity trap. Stocks are liquid. Access them in seconds. A house is illiquid. It takes months to sell. If a recession hits and you lose your job, renter you sells a sliver of stock to buy groceries. Homeowner you cannot sell one brick. You have a massive asset but no cash. The bank won't lend to you because you have no job. You are fragile. Finally, the mobility tax. In the modern economy, wealth is mobility. You get a job offer 3 states away, a 30% raise. Homeowner you have to sell. Pay the 6% agent fee, stage the home, risk a loss. The friction is too high. You decline. You stagnate. Renter you break the lease, pay a small penalty, pack a bag, go. You take the raise. By tying yourself to a plot of land with a 30-year debt contract, you capped your potential. You chose the past over the future. So, what's the verdict? Never buy? No, we do rational here. There are valid reasons to buy. School districts, renovating without permission, psychological safety. But these are consumption reasons, not investment reasons. You are buying a luxury product called stability. Like a designer watch, it costs money. It does not make money. The problem isn't the house. The problem is the lie, calling a liability an asset. So, when do you pull the trigger? You need the 5% rule. This is the tool portfolio managers use to compare renting versus owning. Write this down. Take the total value of the home, multiply by 5%. 1% is property tax, 1% is maintenance, 3% is the cost of capital. Divide by 12. That's your break-even rent. Let's try it. You're looking at a $500,000 condo. 5% of $500,000 is $25,000. Divide by 12, that's roughly $280.3. If rent is less than $2,080 a month, renting is the mathematically superior choice. You build more wealth by renting and investing the difference. If rent is more than $2,080 a month, buying might be smarter. But in New York, London, Toronto, Sydney, the 5% rule screams rent. You can often rent a $1 million apartment for $3,500 while owning it costs $7,000 in unrecoverable costs. Stop looking at a house as a golden ticket. Start looking at it as a very expensive consumer good. If you can afford the luxury, go ahead, paint the walls, but do not lie to yourself that you are saving. Reggie snaps awake, sweating, but there is nothing, just the cool air of his rented apartment. He looks around, white walls, simple furniture. He checks his banking app. The money is there. The down payment he almost spent is sitting in his brokerage account, compounding quietly, liquid, safe. He looks at the ceiling. If it leaks, he calls a guy. If he wants to move to Tokyo, he packs a bag, go. He falls back onto the pillow. He didn't sign his life away. He didn't buy the anchor. He is free. The American dream isn't a house. The American dream is options. Class dismissed.